for the opportunity to deliver this statement, which I will focus on fair and efficient international tax governance. But first, let me give you 3 important reasons why this issue needs to be addressed. Number 1, there is a fundamental democratic problem with any system where decisions about global tax standards are made in a closed room, where some countries are invited and others are excluded. However, this is the system we currently have. Tax and transparency standards, including, for example, model tax treaties, automatic exchange of information, and harmful tax practices and base erosion and profit shifting, are standards that all countries will be impacted by, and all countries are expected to follow. Yet decision-making happens behind closed doors at the OECD in Paris. And while G20 and a few other selected developing countries have been invited to join, more than 100 countries remain excluded from the process. This is undemocratic. Second, the OECD's track record shows that the interests of developing countries will not be respected. Some of the standards that have been adopted will simply not work in developing countries. This is, for example, the case for the automatic information exchange standard, or for the arm's length approach to taxation of multinational corporations. In other cases, the decisions have direct negative financial impacts on developing countries. This is, for example, the case for the OECD's Model Tax Treaty, which argues for allocating the taxing rights to the countries where the multinational enterprises are headquartered, mainly OECD countries, at the expense of the countries where these companies have their economic activity. In reality, this means that taxing rights and thereby financial resources are transferred from developing countries to developed countries. Third, a system that excludes half of the world's countries will not be efficient. The whole essence of the problem of tax havens is that if only a few countries introduce harmful tax practices, they can undermine the tax base of countries all over the world. Therefore, we need a truly global solution to address this issue. Now, how do we get that? What we need is an intergovernmental body on tax matters under the auspices of the United Nations. Similar to the negotiations on, for example, climate change, we suggest that the membership of this body should be universal. The reason for this is very simply that tax is an issue of national sovereignty, and therefore no country can be expected to give another country a mandate to negotiate on its behalf. For the same reason, we would expect that any decision taken by a body which isn't universal could easily be challenged by all the countries who weren't at the table when it was negotiated. And thus, a universal body would in fact be more efficient than a body with limited membership, because agreements would not have to be negotiated more than once. It is worth noticing that a body with universal membership actually already exists under ECOSOC in the shape of the United Nations Forum on Forests. I would like to, lastly, alert everyone to an important pitfall. The current negotiating text, a so-called zero draft, suggests an upgrading of the current expert committee on tax into an intergovernmental body. This is problematic for several reasons. First, an expert committee is very different from an intergovernmental body. It focuses on providing expertise, and it consists of a small group of experts speaking in their personal capacity. Therefore, turning one type of body into another type of body might create a perverse outcome. Second, the decision to upgrade might imply that nothing should happen before the mandate of the existing expert body expires in 2017. This would be a waste of time. And lastly, upgrade could indicate that the new body will not be provided with any further resources than the extremely limited resources that are currently available to the expert committee. If this was the case, the intergovernmental body could not function. As we have previously seen with outcomes from financing for development conferences, it is vital to get a very clear mandate and a deadline if we want to avoid that decisions later on get ignored and forgotten. Therefore, we suggest that the Addis Ababa outcome should include a clear mandate to establish an intergovernmental body on tax matters under the auspices of the United Nations and with universal membership, in time for the body to convene its first meeting in 2016. The existing expert committee could become a subsidiary body of the new body and provide the expert input needed to make the political decisions on international tax matters. Let me lastly underline that time is of the essence. While we are waiting for a truly global cooperation on tax matters to emerge, tax income is lost from public budgets all over the world. Money which could have financed development. Wasted time is wasted money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tove.